This is going to be your basic cleaning process for your Raging Hunter series of revolvers. These steps will work regardless of which model of Raging Hunter you have, which barrel length, and which caliber, just depending on the various calibers you may have more or fewer chambers and charge holes to clean out when you're done firing. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with this Raging Hunter in 44 Magnum. Just like we would with any other gun, we want to make sure that this is safe and clear for us to handle. Now, the Raging Hunter, unlike most revolvers, actually has a double lock system. This is to help contain the magnum pressures that we deal with, not just with 44 Magnum, but with some of the revolver's other chamberings, like 454 Casull, 460 Magnum, and 500 Magnum. What we're going to do to disengage the double lock is we're going to press forward on the normal cylinder release while also pulling down on the crane release and then pressing the cylinder out of the gun. Once I do that, I can again look down into my chambers, make sure my chambers are clear, and also visually verify that the barrel is clear of any obstructions as well. A little trick to do this is to have a surface that bounces light under the barrel so you can tilt the revolver and see the light bounce off your reflective surface and down through the barrel. It doesn't have to be very reflective. It could be a table like this or a white sheet of paper, but anything that lets you see light through the barrel lets you know your barrel's not obstructed and you're good to go to start cleaning. Now, with this Raging Hunter, we're going to go ahead and start cleaning it from the cylinder first, and then we're going to work our way towards the frame. Hunting guns have some special considerations for cleaning. They may get dragged through the dirt, dropped in the mud, or things like that. So your first step in cleaning this gun is I'm going to take a look at the outside of this gun and make sure that there's no debris or dirt or anything in any sort of place that I would need to get rid of. If there was, I could do something like take a shop rag or a cloth and literally just wipe that dust and debris off of the gun, making sure that we've taken care of anything external or any large chunks of leftover hunting junk that may be stuck on here. So moving on, now that we've taken care of the exterior of the gun real quick, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take care of that cylinder. On the cylinder, we have some important places to clean. We want to make sure that we're cleaning the star itself. We want to clean the area under the extractor star. And then we want to give the face of the cylinder a good scrubbing as well. This is to prevent carbon fouling and lead fouling from building up in places that could potentially tie up the weapon and keep it from functioning when you need it to. To get this clean, we're going to go ahead and use our regular solvent. Hunting rounds can sometimes be very high lead rounds or all copper rounds. There's a lot of variation in the projectiles used in these hunting guns. If you shoot a lot of lead ammo, you will want to get a solvent that is specifically designed to remove lead residue. And when you get that solvent, you're going to want to make sure you use it in a well-ventilated space. However, this gun has pretty much seen a steady diet of jacketed ammo, so we're going to go ahead and use our regular solvent. Step one in cleaning the cylinders, we're going to give the cylinder face a good quick spray. Make sure that's done. Then we're going to go ahead and spray down the front of the cylinder as well. A couple of quick sprays right there. And with that, we can pull out our metal brush, and we're going to go ahead and scrub the face of the cylinder, stabilizing it with our hand through the window. And we're going to pull down as we scrub to make sure we keep any debris from going up into the gun and move everything down and away from the gun's operating mechanism. Then we'll go ahead and push the star out, and we're going to brush out under the extractor star. Make sure we're not leaving any debris in there. And then we can turn the gun over and go ahead and give the front of the cylinder a real good scrubbing. Once we've scrubbed down those bits, we want to make sure that we're going to wipe off any excess solvent we have left on the gun so we can see, one, how effective our cleaning was, and two, to make sure that we're not leaving anything on the gun that could attract more debris out in the field. Once that's good to go, we can give it a quick check. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to clean out the individual charge holes or chambers on the revolver. To do that, it's easiest to just take a bore snake, and you're going to bore snake each of the 6 on this particular model of Raging Hunter charge holes with an appropriately sized bore snake. For a 44 caliber revolver, you can use a 45 caliber bore snake. That is perfectly acceptable. And you'll want to stabilize the cylinder to make sure that you're not putting too much forward pressure on it as you drag the bore snake through. Now the bad news is if you do have a 45 caliber bore snake, you can use that on multiple products in our line, but if you happen to have our new 500 Magnum, you're going to have to get a special bore snake for that. Now once we've snaked the chambers, those should all be clean. We take a quick look, make sure there's no debris or anything in there. They're good. So now we can move on to the frame parts of the revolver. On the revolver's frame itself, we want to hit a couple of crucial areas. We want to hit the area where the firing pin protrudes through the frame to make sure that we're getting that clean and free of any debris. We want to hit where the extractor star locks up into the frame. And of course, we want to hit the forcing cone itself, one of the most critical areas on the gun to keep clean, because it's where the projectile actually enters the barrel and begins to interact with the rifling. So we'll start here with a quick spray of our solvent and the brush again. Our rag to wipe that clean. That looks pretty good. Now we can move on to the forcing cone. This gun has been shot a lot, so we're going to want to give that forcing cone a couple of real good sprays with the solvent, and then we're really going to get after it with this brush. You want to make sure that you're angling your brush on the sides to get the side of the forcing cone and not just the top. And once you've given that a real thorough brushing, we can go ahead and take our rag and once again wipe the forcing cone area clean, making sure that we got the majority of the fouling clear of that. And it looks like we did a pretty good job with this. Now that means with this gun, what I can do is I'm actually going to spray a little bit of solvent directly down the barrel so that when I drag my bore snake through the barrel, it'll help get any remaining fouling out of the gun. So we're going to go ahead and drop that in just like we would through any other gun, making sure the bore snake goes in the same direction of travel as a projectile. And we're going to go ahead and pull that through. Once we've pulled the bore snake through, you can pull it through a couple more times if you feel like it. Again, we want to go ahead and wipe off any excess solvent here from the gun. If you have an electronic optic on your gun, you want to make sure that you don't leave any solvent on that. That could cause problems. So we're going to check this real quick. Make sure that we've wiped it down with our rag so it's good as well. Now, with a hunting gun, if you've completed your hunt for the year and you're probably not going back out, you're going to want to oil this up for long-term storage. If you're cleaning it in between hunts and you're getting ready to go back out again, your oiling will be much, much lighter. If you're going to go back out in the field, I recommend that you only oil specific metal-on-metal components, and we'll get to those at the end of this video. If you're oiling it for long-term storage, what you want to do is apply a light coat of oil to the entire exterior surface of the gun so that when you store it, that oil is going to protect it. It's going to form a barrier against any sort of moisture and corrosion that might get into the gun. Since hunting guns often get shot get taken out in poor conditions and then placed in a safe for 6 months, 7 months to a year. You want to make sure that you give them that proper oil bath before long-term storage. But now, let's look at oiling the functional parts of this gun, starting with the cylinder. You can see that the ejector rod has spring tension in it. We want to make sure that that travels freely. So we're going to go ahead and place a drop of lube on the ejector rod, and then we're going to go ahead and press that up and down a few times to make sure that lube travels through there. Another drop of lube will go directly on the cylinder where the cylinder actually spins. We can go ahead and rotate the cylinder a little bit while we do that, just to make sure that lube distributes itself evenly through there. The cylinder should spin freely. There should be no binding or clicking or anything like that. Once that's done, we can go ahead and close up the cylinder, and we're going to go ahead and cock the hammer back into single action mode, and we're going to place a drop of lube down the front of the hammer where the hammer and the sear engage, and then a drop on either side of the hammer, like so. We'll give them a minute to allow that lubricant to actually work its way down into the gun. And once that lubricant has worked its way down in there, what we're going to do is we're going to cock the hammer and release it, just like this, 6 to 12 times. Once we've done that, we can wipe off any excess lube that didn't make it down into the gun, and we're going to lubricate it in the last couple of places, which is right here on the trigger. So we'll place a drop here on the trigger where it meets up with the frame, turn the gun over, do the same on the other side, and then we'll let it sit like this, letting that lube work its way down, or up in this case, into the actual frame of the revolver. This is where there's a lot of metal-on-metal contact in this gun, and this is the most effective way to lubricate this without removing the side plate, which should only be done by a certified gunsmith or armorer. Now that we've allowed that lubricant to actually work its way down into the gun, we're going to go ahead and turn it over, and we're going to dry fire the gun 6 to 12 times. Once I've done that, I'm pretty certain that the lube has worked its way well throughout the revolver, which means I can once again wipe down any remaining bearing surfaces. We're going to check to make sure everything is still good to go. And again, if I was going to store this, if my hunt for the year was complete, I'm going to go ahead and lubricate the entire surface of this gun with a very fine coat of oil. The easiest way to figure out what a fine coat of oil is to actually apply a bit to your finger and use that to lubricate all over the gun. You'll see how the metal can kind of change color when it's been lubricated. You'll do that over the entire surface of the gun, and that would make your gun appropriately lubricated for long-term storage or over-the-season storage. However, if you're going back out in the field, you definitely don't want to do that, because that will actually attract more dirt and residue to your Raging Hunter revolver. That is the very basic cleaning and lubrication steps for your Taurus Raging Hunter. If you perform those steps as we've shown them, you'll be good to go the next time you're out in the field.